Hey everybody, it's Mike, and I am so sorry for that delay that we had before going into this video. Um, Things have just been really hectic around here, but as promised, we do have the review of the 4 dating sites that we tried out. So let's go ahead and start this off with Tinder. Yes, we're going to start this off with Tinder. And my impressions are the interface itself is really easy to use, it's really easy to set up. You get just enough information to kind of know what you're swiping through, but let's be honest, most people are going to be superficial on that since it's branded as being a hookup app. I've never had any luck with that as a guy, and as a guy, you can be on there for months and months and months before actually finding a successful match, unless you just happen to be drop dead gorgeous or just flat say in your profile that you're going to pay for dates. And by pay, I mean hundreds and hundreds of dollars, because let's just be honest. Yeah, I'm sure that just triggered some people. And the thing that really kind of blindsided me is when I went to run this as a woman, I was really shocked to find out how easy it was to get banned. And this kind of impressed me because Tinder brands themselves as being very pro-woman, very feminist, and so much so that one of their ad campaigns was the man-provement. For you, Tinder. Within 2 days, Ellie was banned. And a lot of this, honestly, I am going to just flat attribute to butthurt men. It turns out this is really common for women to go through, which is part of the reason you don't find very many women on that site, but you'll find tons of guys. If enough people complain about your account, they just ban you right out. There's no appeals process, no nothing. You can't even get to an appeals process. And so to that end, they'll give you this error code, and you just keep trying to log in, until you get frustrated and just delete the app. That's how they go about it. And it turns out this is really common. There's actually editors from female magazines, or magazines geared towards women, that have complained about this very same thing. So Tinder, in trying to be feminist, has really made the choice harder for women. So, good job. Ella Grant, if you haven't checked out her YouTube channel, it's awfully funny. She actually even commented on that too. There's a chance that enough people, if they think you're trans, they'll boot you off. So it's actually transphobic, possibly. That's one theory. The other theory, though, is the straight women who've had the same problem. So honestly, I think what it comes down to is a bunch of butthurt men who are just clicking the bot button because you didn't answer fast enough. The interesting thing to know is during this test, it was actually Tinder that we opened with. And the original parameters for this test were for us to keep silent. The guys could shoot out all the pickup lines they wanted. We just wouldn't reply. So because of this, moving forward, we are not going to remain completely silent. We'll not reply to some, but we'll reply to others, and we'll keep some conversations going. But we're still only going to just log the initial pickup lines. That's what's important. But yeah, because of this, we're kind of worried about flagging other bot checkers too. So just in case that was part of it, but I really doubt it was. So that's that for Tinder. Moving on to Meet Me. Meet Me was rather interesting, and I've had a Meet Me account for a while as a guy, and I've actually met a few people that way. It's really easy to use, but it doesn't have much in the way of a filter. It is it's an app for the social butterfly. And but the cool thing is, as a guy, I've actually had girls pick up on me on that and things like that. So it's not a bad site. The user base is still somewhat smallish. And as a girl, honestly, the experience was much the same. And the only problem with it being a girl on there was there were some massive issues of sexual harassment. And there's a lot of drug users on there, and there's no real filters. So you're getting hit on by everybody. And that's kind of a pain in the ass, because let's be honest, nobody actually reads the profile. So in my profile where I'm saying, hey, no stoners, no smokers, sure enough, there they are hitting on me. So there was that. There were a couple people that just didn't know their boundaries, and I'll be posting all those in the next video. I'm actually just reviewing this as a site, and you can block people pretty quick. So if you're a mature adult about it, the site is wonderful. I actually do enjoy Meet Me. So it's one, even if the user base is kind of small. This one is incredibly popular throughout the U.S., so much so that even Rooster Teeth has a little spot on Always Open, where they use it as kind of an icebreaker, the silly tests and questions that they use. And the goal of OkCupid is to match you up with your ideal mate based on all these personality tests and this and that. great if you're a very accepting human being, and it can absolutely suck if you are a high maintenance prima donna. So I can appreciate that. Now let's go ahead and go into the pros and cons of that. We didn't get to run this one as a guy, sadly. By the time we started really looking through our last-ditch applicants for people to help out with this, absolutely none of the girls were willing to run it because of issues. They were afraid of it hurting their egos, things like that, since they knew it would take a while to get 100 women to hit on them, especially with my ugly mug. And yeah, so thanks. That was a really good ego stroking that you gave me, all you candidates. Going back to OkCupid, the filters worked somewhat too well. This one is the one that took us the longest to hit the 100 benchmark as Ellie. But they worked. The filters were pretty solid, so that part was nice. The tests aren't quite as bad as they're made out to be. All in all, not terrible, and the interface was easy to use. Now, as I said before, OkCupid took us the longest to hit our 100 count, and that's where we kind of get into the ugly here. The filter might be a little bit too good. Having said that, there were still people, like I'd said before with Meet Me, where I'd said no smokers, no stoners, where stoners fit through going, ooh, maybe I can have a chance, or maybe they were just stoned when they filled it out and forgot they were stoners. And one of them, honestly, was at least nice enough that we did actually try friend zoning the guy. He was cool enough, he clicked in with the group enough that we were like, hey, when the experiment was all over, we let him know, hey, you're kind of a nice guy. You want to hang out with us? You know, and he didn't take to it too kindly. He fell in love with this mental image he had of Ellie. But I think even as a con, that goes to show kind of how good OkCupid really is at trying to match people based on personality. So the only real con we have is because the filters work so well, if you are a major prima donna or you're real high maintenance or just have an ego that you really need to have deflated, this site should deflate your ego pretty quick because the guys just simply won't be there. And I think that's where the "it's hard to find a guy" phrase is really coming from. I think what it boils down to, and this site kind of proved it, good old confirmation bias. If you're high maintenance or your standards are just too high, if you're one of those women that'll only accept 10% of the guys that come your way, yeah, OkCupid will give you a reality check pretty damned hard. And closing this up with POF, or Plenty of Fish, or whatever you want to call it. Plenty of Fish was a good compromise between OkCupid and Meet Me. It was easy to use, but the filter wasn't draconian, so we were able to still get through the experiment pretty quick. We were able to nail out the 100 pickup lines well under a week, and so that was nice. And so moving on to the pros of that, like I was saying, this is a great balance between Meet Me and OkCupid. The filter worked, but not so much that it killed the dating pool to absolutely nothing. As I said, we were able to get the pickup lines pretty quick, and that kind of leads us to the cons. Because of that, we did encounter one asshole who, and we will name and shame him in the next episode. I do fully plan on name and shaming the guys who think sexual harassment is okay, and I'm going to preface this ahead of time if you're one of them. Yeah, you guys can blur that out if you really hate it, or report me to YouTube. I don't give a fuck. Anyway, in this one particular case, and this one was amazing, so I'm going to kind of allude to it now before we hit the next episode. One asshole decided to try playing the race card. It didn't work for Riley Dennis. It ain't going to work for you. And that was a pretty quick way for me to report him for harassment, and I had all the screenshots and everything else, and next time I will clue you guys in on the entire conversation. And that kind of concludes it. Like I said, we couldn't run this one as a woman, too, because the women that we were asking just simply wouldn't do it. Partially because they knew they'd be using my face, partially because they knew it would just take forever to get the 100, and they literally, I'm quoting this, they were afraid of the blow to their ego. They knew that they know that they're the ones getting picked up on. They know that the other side is having to do all the work. And so the feminists who are getting mad about this are mad because they've alienated everybody, and so nobody goes after them, and they don't want to do the work either way. So it is what it is. And just one final note regarding all of this. If you're easily triggered, here's some trigger warnings. You're going to be triggered. Okay. in today's culture, we have the rise of what's known as the incels, or involuntary celibates. These are people who just can't get dates, can't get laid, typically through some fault of their own, though they will try to blame everybody else. They'll blame women, they'll blame society, they'll blame just anyone but themselves. And here's a news flash. The common denominator between all of your failed relationships is you. You. That's the common denominator. That's what all of your failed relationships have in common. So if you can't get a date, man or woman, you're the problem. So that covers the incels. And this is going to sound incredibly racist, but the most sexual harassment and most entitlement issues we had, and some of these really are incels too. Incels do typically have entitlement issues, which is one of the reasons they can't find a date. They have an overinflated view of themselves. Men, they think they're entitled to women's bodies, and women think they're entitled to men just because. And the hot men at that. So they're unwilling to lower their standards, and with guys, they're unwilling to grow the fuck up. And the Muslims were the worst about this. And I've got friends who are Muslim, and they weren't as bad as this. Specifically, it was from the Muslim nations where this kind of shit is tolerated, where women are allowed to be put in a box. And I'm not a feminist. I am not. But you do not get the right to demand to see anyone's body. You don't get a right to see them nude. You can't request this. You cannot demand this. I mean, you can request it once you get to know somebody. Don't ever fucking open with that. And this went through all the websites. And women, don't just go asking for a man's pocketbook. But seriously, guys, there's an internet full of fucking porn. You're watching this on the internet. If you're in a country where porn is banned, use a proxy server. Just grow the fuck up. And I'm actually going to close this video on that. Kind of my rant on both sides, but really against the guys. We didn't get so many dick pics. What we got were a lot of dicks. So, the good thing is, even then, that didn't make up the majority. Most guys honestly behaved themselves quite well. So good job, guys. But you guys in the third world Muslim nations, you're not winning any favors here. Anyway, see you guys next time when we get to lampoon the dicks.